Welcome to The Journey, and this strange voice you're hearing is me, Chris Powell, and I'm taking over the mic from Heath. He's been on the road out representing Houndsman. Just got back from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, spent a few days up there with the Go Wild crew. He's reporting an awesome week with Braden and Jacob up there from Go Wild and Dan, and I'm meeting several houndsmen up there. But the reason I'm taking over is I got the opportunity to talk to Janis Putelis from MeatEater. Janis, if you follow him on social media or follow anything that MeatEater does, then you know that Janis has hunted all over North America from Alaska to the Rocky Mountains. Very accomplished hunter. And then a few years ago, about 3 years ago, he picked up a hound and had the bug to start hunting with a hound. We're going to talk about his transition into hound hunting, talk about his journey as a houndsman. He and Mingus are out there catching lions now, and we're just going to talk about what it took to get there, the development of those hounds, and the rewards that he's feeling from seeing that dog work. We're going to talk about some predisposed ideas he may have had before hunting with hounds and how he looks at it now. This is going to be a great podcast. I know you're going to enjoy it, and a story like this can only be told on The Journey. Can you hear me, Janis?
Yep.
All right.
Can you hear me?
You bet. It's like
good.
Studio quality.
Well, that's what we go for here over at MeatEater at my house. So good.
Yeah, you bet, man. COVID was good for that kind of stuff. You know, it made us all up our game a little bit.
Oh yeah, totally. And we
you
realize
guys,
it's really nice because we don't have to go to the office anymore.
Yeah. So were you out hunting this morning?
Nope. Slept in this. I should have. We had a nice dusting this morning. Would have been a good morning, but I got a full day of stuff, so I probably could have just gone to look for tracks. But I also need to be around the house helping out, getting kids out the door. You know,
Man, I'm past those days, Janis. Past it. All my kids are grown up and out of the house, so yeah, it's kind of a new phase of life for us. Empty nesters.
Yeah, no grandkids yet.
Not yet. Everybody's holding out on us. I told them I'm gonna be old and decrepit, and if they wait too long, I won't be able to take them bear hunting and lion hunting by the time they're old enough to go. So nope, not yet. No grandkids. Well, I thought we'd just talk about where you got Mingus and how you came about it, and just kind of tell the Janis Putelis story and how you got into hounds and what sparked your interest there.
Yeah, you bet. I had slight interest, probably a little bit before getting Mingus. Steve and I did a hunt with Bruce Duncan and Bart George up there in northern Idaho. And I think that was my first actual lion hunt I went on. It sort of opened my eyes to what really goes on, in a lion hunt. And we worked our tails off. I think we finally got one on the third day, and every day was like high. The high was -2, it was chilly.
So what were your impressions? Like, what did you go into that hunt with? What were you guys thinking you were getting yourselves into?
Well, I can't speak for Steve, but myself, I had chatted a lot with Bart George leading up to it because I was producing the MeatEater show at that point, and so I was learning a lot just in the pre-production learning a lot as far as like what was going to happen, and just that's a big part of making good television is anticipating the action so that your cinematographers that have probably never been on a lion hunt either can also be anticipating what's going to happen, and they can be in position, to get the good shots, to get the good dialogue, etc. So, I definitely, I think they're common misconceptions, but I definitely had them. Probably the biggest, I think, misconception I had is that, the whole time the dogs are running, there's a cat running out in front of them. you know,
Like they're looking at it, like they're sight chasing it.
Well, just that, yeah. I think that it took me even a while after I got into it to understand that really 99% of the chase isn't really a chase, and the word chase is sort of a bad representation of what goes on, because it's really a tracking job to me now, right? Like my dog is tracking for many miles, sometimes hours, and then there's a jump. And then there's a chase. And I think that, for at least from my experience, that chase is pretty short most of the time. Bobcat's different story, but with lions, it seems like they don't have the lungs, right, to outrun a hound. And a couple of times with Bart, working with Bart and his project, we got to witness, because they have those cats right, GPS collared, and so you can see them maybe doing one double back kind of move or trying to evade the dogs, but as soon as the dogs sort the track out and get on it, it seems like this track is like the chase is actually pretty short.
You're starting to sound like a seasoned lion hunter, Janis. You better be careful, buddy.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to get to be a seasoned lion hunter. I'm a seasoned guy that goes and looks for tracks at this point. Whether I'm a lion hunter, I don't know, but I'm pretty good at driving around, at least pretending like I'm going to find a lion track at some point.
Yeah. My game for the looks is, I'm right there. I've got all the gear, and I've got the long range antenna on top of the truck. So I'm right there with you, man. I can drive down the road and look the part.
Yeah. But, I don't know if I had, it's hard to remember. It was a while ago when I went and did that hunt. But anyways, I didn't have any real plans of becoming a hound hunter. I had a buddy here in town who, I'd call him an acquaintance at that point, who was super into it. Had actually lion hunted and bobcat hunted a long time, and then went away from it and went to running beagles for rabbits because he felt like the competition for lions had gotten too stiff. And then he came back to lions and bobcats.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool story.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'm gonna have to interview him for the podcast. See what his transition years look like.
You should. Very interesting fella. I don't think there's many people in the great state of Montana that probably catch more lions annually than he does. His year is set up to where he makes his living not between December and March. And so, like he told me the other day, if you want to be a really successful lion hunter, you either have to have zero responsibilities or access to a huge ranch that has great road system through it. Those are the two ways that you can sort of, beat the odds, right? Because for me, I get to go check once or twice, sometimes, 3 times a week. It's as we all know now, it's a game of numbers and having to just be out there looking to eventually find them. But back to how I became a hound hunter and the owner of Mingus. We were shopping for a dog. We wanted a family dog. I definitely wanted some sort of a hunting dog. And I wasn't in too much of a rush. And I had been shopping for a solid year. And I'd probably researched almost every single hunting dog variety out there. And I had pitched them all to the family. And I was looking at I love squirrel hunting with dogs. So we were looking at a squirrel dog, but the closest good squirrel hunting to us is a couple hours away. And I just didn't think that I would be able to, make it worthwhile. Anyways, the kids got fed up with my shopping. And one day I got a phone call from my wife, and she said, there's 3 blue tick coonhounds down at this, I think it's called the Stafford Shelter in Livingston, Montana. And, we're headed down there. And if you want to be a part of this, you better meet us down there. So I'm like, okay. I said, but you know what happens when you take the kids down to the pound, there's a couple of fresh puppies. Like you're not leaving without one. And sure enough, we get down in there, and the guy even like opens the kennel door and sticks my kids in there with the 3 puppies. And, you know, they're just having a blast. And so, yeah, we actually picked the runt because the other 2 were the bigger one. And I don't know if it was just because they were all probably malnourished and one of them had just come out on top, but he was rambunctious and just seemed real crazy. Mingus was being really mellow. He also had the prettiest markings. And so we chose him because he was being chill. He had the pretty markings, chose him. And yeah, at that point I said, well, I guess when, you know, the universe gives you a hound dog, you got to become a hound hunter. And, and so then with my buddy Jake that I was speaking of earlier, he, you know, we started doing the raccoon thing in the cage and just getting Mingus fired up on that smell. And then I trapped a few raccoons and would, you know, cut them loose in a field, let them have a couple minute head start, put Mingus on them. And he definitely treated a few coons before we got into lions, but I don't know, retrospectively looking at it, I don't think I did a whole bunch of training with them. I mean, we definitely did some drags, and a buddy of mine gave me the tail from a cougar. And so I was able to drag that scent around. It seemed like most of the training actually came from training him off of deer.
That's right.
And moose and, you know, whatever else he runs into, you know?
Yeah. Well, the first time I talked to you or I met you, I think we were talking about hunting, you know, coon hunting south of Bozeman there, or somewhere around Bozeman when I was out there working. We never pulled that together. But I think at that time your plan was just to, you know, have a dog that you could take out and tree a few raccoons and things like that. Did you actually have the intention of going out and freezing your tail off and hiking around in the snow chasing lions?
You know, if I didn't, then I guess I can't quite recollect, but I'm pretty sure that the coons were just going to be a stepping stone. Not that I don't like doing still the coons now, but I think that obviously living where we do in Bozeman, you know, there are coons, there's that opportunity, there's bobcats, and there's lions all to, you know, chase with a hound dog. So
I can't imagine.
Yeah, that's it.
I can't imagine living in Bozeman and not, you know, having a hound and not getting out there and trying to catch bobcats and lions. I can't even imagine doing that. So,
yeah, it's a hoot, you know, and it's you know, it's something that I can do close to home, which is a great thing.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time on the road with your job with MeatEater, and I mean, there's videos you've hunted in Alaska on the North Face, and so it probably is kind of a relief to have something close to home for you.
Yeah. That was Mingus there. I don't know what he's barking on. Yeah, it's nice to have it close to home, and it's nice to have something that's such a great adventure. You know, I think that's really one of the things that has, you know, got me fired up about hound hunting is that it seems like there's few other things that I go do where the adventure, and I think it kind of depends on how you define adventure, but sort of the unknown factor, which is why why a lot of people don't like canned hunts or release pheasants, right? You kind of go there and you're going to know, you know what you're getting into. You know there's going to be 20 birds that eventually fly up, right? And it just seems like when you cut that hound loose in the mountains, you know, sometimes 5 minutes later, they're not even out of earshot and you can hear them barking treed. I've had that happen to me. And then other times where you think you're going to be done by 9 or 10 in the morning and you're hiking out in the dark that night and you've crossed over 2 drainages and you've eaten every sandwich and, you know, trail bar in your backpack. And it's just cool. And it takes you to places, or takes me to places that I might not otherwise ever get to.
That's what I
and
try to
not like
tell
on a
people. Yeah, I
yeah.
try to tell people that in my messages too. I was just speaking at the American Bear Foundation banquet in Cody last weekend, and I just told them, I was like, there's a lot of places these hounds take me when I'm standing up there and I'm looking down, like in North Fork area up in northern Idaho. There's places there that a normal person wouldn't say, "Hey, let's just go down there and see what that looks like,"
Mm-hmm.
But when your dogs are there and they're treed, you're going.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it adds to that level too. So have you got him broke off all trash? Is he still running moose? I have a heck of a time when I go out there with moose.
Yeah. I think as far as cervids go, I can pretty much trust him. Like, it's been quite a while since I've seen him. Like, and again, it's so tough because when a dog's 500 yards away from you and you're only watching his actions through your GPS, you don't really know, right? I mean,
yeah,
maybe he peels off and runs a moose for 50 yards, but we run, like, trail run a lot together in the summer. And again, I know dogs act differently when their owner is, within sight. But nowadays, it sure seems like if he sees a deer, he's like, I'm looking the other way. If he sees a moose, he's coming right back to me. Yeah. And those moose are, they're pretty intimidating. And he knows that I think a moose can cause a little bit of, problem for him. Now, coyotes and foxes are a different story. Coyotes, I had the opportunity the other day where I saw him, peel off on a fresh coyote track, and he followed it, a solid 20 yards, long enough where I had the time to, get the controller out, give him a good zap, and turn him off of that track and scold him a little bit. Now, unfortunately, again, I'm green to it. I didn't know that there's a difference between, obviously they smell different, but I guess it just assumed that a fox wouldn't be that different. Well, the other day he went, bananas, and I was in deep snow and a couple 100 yards away from where he opened up. He was just free casting, and we were in a spot where I've caught lions in the past. So I thought, oh, here we go. And it took me a good bit just to make it those 200 yards. And once I got over there and found his tracks and started following his tracks, and then I could see the fox tracks, I'm like, oh, come on. So, again, he's not 100% broke off of the non-target animals, but hopefully, it seems like he gets real frustrated when he chases those foxes and coyotes, and you can just kind of hear it in his voice.
Yeah.
It's not that same just super eager, super intense.
He's probably thinking, man, I can't help myself. I got to do it, but I know what's coming. Oh man, but this is fun. They go through that, but foxes and coyotes and the hound's nose is such an amazing thing. The way they can discriminate against different scents and how they can keep that all straight. We've done a ton of podcasts on that, but I want to know, so where are you getting your information? There's people of all levels of their journey here on this houndsman journey that they're taking. And so where are you getting your information? Because from where I'm sitting, Janis, I mean, you take a dog from a shelter, you bring it home, and now, what are you, 2 years into it, and you're catching lions with Mangus? I think it'd be a great piece of information for an encouragement for some of the newer people to understand where you're getting your information and how you're developing Mangus as a new houndsman. That's one of the main questions I get all the time. Hey, I'm getting started. What advice do you have? And I'm 40 some years into it. So I think it'd be great for the listeners to hear from you about where you're getting your information and how you're approaching the training with your hound. Because to me, when I get questions like that, it's kind of like, it's almost that primacy effect where it's like, you say, well, what do you mean you don't know? And I got to be careful about that.
Well, I've been lucky, certainly first and foremost, and certainly the majority, the lion's share of the information that I get to bring in comes from my main mentor, and that's this fella Jake that I hunt with.
Yeah.
That has helped me out a lot. And like I said, he's been at it for 2 decades, maybe 3 decades now, and it just is an amazing wealth of knowledge. So, and then, again, through MeatEater, I've been lucky. Like I said, I met those fellows in Northern Idaho. I've stayed in touch with them. I've met some of Bart George's other, buddies that run that Eastern Washington, stayed in touch with them. So I'm in a very lucky position to be in where I don't have, there's not a shortage of people that I can call that know a lot more than I do about the topic. That can help me out about it. But that being said, I definitely, I'm trying to remember I read the Tree Dog Encyclopedia. Is that Wick that wrote that one?
John Wick.
Yeah. I read, is it Del Cameron?
Yep.
Raised by a Hound. Yep.
Call of the Hounds. Raised by a Hound Dog was, was that wasn't Vans. That was, not Van Johnson. Raised by a Hound Dog was the guy, Ed Vance.
Yeah.
In Northern California.
Ed Vance.
Yeah.
That's right. So any of those, like the top, whatever, probably 10, hound hunting books that were recommended to me early on, I bought them all immediately, went through all those. Certainly listened to a lot of episodes of your podcast, of the W podcast, any podcast that Clay Newcomb did around.
That's bad
hounds.
Information. That's bad information.
Even if it wasn't necessarily about lion hounds, I'd listen to what they were talking about, bear hounds. But like anything, and it probably extends way beyond the hunting world, but it's certainly from my experience in the journey of hunting, you can talk to all the people you want to talk to, listen to all the podcasts you want, but what's going to get you, your own knowledge and your own confidence and actually learn, and it's just going to be going out there and putting the time in yourself.
Boots on the ground.
There's probably very few ways, I think, where you could be out there. As long as you're trying to participate, I don't think there's few ways that you could actually be doing some kind of harm, to your journey or to your dog's journey. It just seems like you do it and you're going to figure out, to go left or right, or to go forwards or backwards, and what's going to be right and wrong. And, just repetition and persistence, it seems like in this game. I finally just feel like I can go faster than 5 miles an hour down, even in perfect conditions with a fresh skiff of snow, go down the road faster and go by a deer track and without stopping, go, yep, deer track, yep, elk track. And then when something looks, more cat-like, whether it's a wolf around here or a cat, that immediately kind of sticks in my eye, and I pump the brakes. But I'll
tell you a funny story. I'll tell you a funny story about the ability of guys, experienced cat hunters. Where the first time I lion hunted was in the Bitterroot, and man, I was trashing all day long in that truck. Every time we drove by an elk track, what's that? There's a cat track. And Mike Ritchie would just he wouldn't even look up. I mean, he's like, no, those are elk. That's a deer. That's an elk. And I was just over there opening, striking on every track I saw, and then I was with Kevin Hall over around Ingham, Idaho, and we're driving down the road, and I'm not kidding you, honest. We were driving 30 miles an hour down the road, and he was riding. I was driving, and we were on, blacktop, and I'm just cruising along, and he's like, there's a lion track back there. And I looked at him, I said, there is no way you saw that lion track. He goes, yeah, turn around. We'll get, sure enough, we get back there. The dude was under a sage bush coming out, and I couldn't believe it. I took pictures of it. The ability to spot those tracks that these guys have is amazing to me.
Well, it comes down to, I mean, it's similar to when you're glassing, for elk, let's just say on a distant hillside or just 1,000-yard hillside. And when you first start glassing, you're looking everywhere. And then eventually you realize, well, I don't have to look everywhere. I have to look where the elk should be. Right. And I think it's similar with those tracks where there's just places that they like to frequent, that they like to the way that when you understand how they use the topography and how they use the features of the land.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those cats, they hunt the edges just like a good, human hunter does. Right.
Yeah.
And they hunt the edges of the timber and open space. They hunt the edges of canyons. And so that's the place to look. And certainly, like, I've learned that one big time. Like, any track that I can't decipher, like, hot tip is to walk that thing 20 yards to where the track goes near a tree, under a bush, because it might be a lot less snow. It might be just better snow conditions for the print. Maybe you run across some mud where there's a better print. And then all of a sudden you've got you got just so many more clues to the puzzle. Yeah, it's been a fun journey for sure.
Have you been worried about, because you guys have some wolves in that country?
Yeah,
you got wolves. So have you been worried about that? Because I've seen some video lately where Mingus is treed by himself, and you're catching some lions by yourself. Mm-hmm. Does that thought cross your mind?
Oh yeah, 100%. The other day we actually had a wolf that was on my snowmobile track from the time I went to get Mingus, and that by the time Mingus and I came back out, there was a single track on my snowmobile track. So the wolf had run it, whatever, in the prior couple hours. If I see a fresh wolf track, like, and it's fresh, I know from the night before, and it's going into the country that we might be going and hunting, like, I'll probably just not even go and look for cat tracks in that zone. The other day we were out on a not a super long, I don't know, like a 2-hour snowmobile ride, kind of a check, and halfway into it we ran across where so many wolves had gotten onto the snowmobile track that you couldn't see the track anymore, and I couldn't tell how many wolves were in this bunch. I mean, it was a good sized group of animals. And so obviously when I see that, I bail, and you just hope that when I cut them loose and again, I don't know if it really matters if you got 2 dogs or 6 dogs. I think a pack of wolves is going to overtake most, packs of hounds, unless you have some kind of a wolfhound running in there too, maybe. But, yeah, hopefully that I just cut the track or see some sign of the wolf before I cut Mingus loose. So it's definitely always a worry. The same way that, Mingus baying a cat that is approachable, because he doesn't actually. The other day he actually treed one. I didn't get to see it because the cat jumped before I got there, but it was on a leaner. Maybe the diameter of the tree was too small that Mingus didn't feel comfortable, because I've seen him get into trees that if he can walk up them or climb up them, he will. And so why he didn't, I don't know. Like I said, maybe the diameter was too small. But there's always that worry that he gets in too close and gets swiped or chomped. But again, from my limited experience and talking to the people that have a bunch of experience that I bounce thoughts off of all the time, it seems like those that have lost dogs to cats, it never happened to a single dog. There was a pack of dogs in there, and it was the circumstances of the tree or the bay where the dogs were able to get too close to that lion, and the lion just it has enough of the pestering, and it swipes them, or it chomps them or whatever it is. And again, I just don't know if having 6 dogs or 1 dog is going to get you out of that predicament.
One dog. There's a couple things I think that happens here. I've seen it in bear hunting a lot. One dog knows, he respects that bear or that lion a lot more by himself. Now you get 2 of them together. So the rule is, 1 young dog, half a brain, 2 young dogs, no brain. They get that motivation. They're like teenage kids. You send a teenage boy up he's not going to jump off the dock but you get his buddies around and we're all doing backflips and we're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I've seen that behavior come out. Something clicks in there with the pack mentality and they get bold. And then the other problem is if you've got, 4 or 5 dogs they're all of a sudden bold, a lot of ledged out stuff gets hairy because you get these narrow ledges. You get several dogs that are trying to bay this lion and the dog in front can't get out of the way. They end up getting caught. They've got the grit, they've got the tenacity to get in there and do their job. And a lot of times the cheerleaders won't let them get out of the way when they need to be zigging and they zag and boom, there you go. You got a problem.
And I imagine with those ledges, when you have a pack in there that's going bananas, that it's easy for a dog to go off the ledge, whether they're pushed by the lion or pushed by one of their pack mates or whatever it might be. But those falls can probably be pretty detrimental to a hound.
Yeah, I've never lost a hound on a ledge like that, but man, that takes a whole. Those guys that are hunting that Red Rock country and stuff down in Utah, where they legend 4 or 5 lions a year, it makes me pucker. I mean, you're getting out there. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, have you ever lost a dog to a lion or a bear?
No, never have. And that's because I've got half-assed dogs, but I'm a guy with some dogs that'll chase a bear. And I tell everybody my dogs would be a lot better if they had a real bear hunter behind them. But no, I have never lost a dog. Now, I know several people that have lost them to wolves. Some of the houndsmen that I know, let me think. I'm trying to think if I know of Cleve Dwyer lost some hounds to a lion a couple weeks ago over in Nevada. That was a bad situation. He's one of the most recent ones that I know of that have actually lost hounds to lions. Bears, it's a little more common. A little more common that it happens there. You get into those thick laurel thickets, or I don't know how we haven't lost them. We've caught them in caves and rocks and everything else, and I've just been lucky.
The Journey on Houndsman XP has teamed up with One TDC. This dual action support for oral health and mobility in our dogs. This unique supplement is so effective that it is recommended by top veterinarian experts worldwide to maintain and improve our dog's health in 4 different areas: their oral health, hips, joints, and muscles, skin, coat, energy, and recovery. Guys, I've been using this product for the last 6 months, and it has been a game changer for me. If you're looking for something to help with the overall health of your dog, go to worksowell.com and give this product a try. It is highly recommended by Houndsman XP here on The Journey.
Yeah, it's it's always a worry, but it's like life is full of these worries, and if you don't want to die, then you should probably never drive a vehicle, right?
Right.
And there's the chances of you driving your dog around in your truck and killing him that way are probably higher than chasing lions and bears.
That's interesting you say that, Janis, because the only place I've ever lost hounds is on the road, being struck by vehicles. And it wasn't ever a situation where you thought it was likely to happen. It was always, a non-busy country road way out in the boonies, and you don't ever expect to lose a hound there. But every time you turn a hound loose, you're taking a risk of never seeing that hound again, whether it be, losing them in a cave, under a brush pile, in a well, getting hit on the road. I mean, there's a lot of risks involved to it for sure. But the same thing can be said for, you know, mama's couch potato. They get out of the house and before you know it, they're lost out in the world. And so it's not something that's unique to houndsmen.
Mm-mm.
So, but all right. So I'd like to know what kind of transferable skills did you bring? Because you're an accomplished big game hunter, Janis. I mean, you've been a professional guide, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You've hunted all over North America. I don't know if you've hunted anywhere besides that or not, but what kind of transferable skills did you bring into hound hunting that have helped you?
Good question.
The reason,
Go ahead.
while you're thinking about it, the reason I'm asking the question is because we have several people that are coming into hunting hounds. They're accomplished big game hunters, deer hunters, ungulates, elk, and it's like, hey, I thought I'd give the hound hunting thing a try, and so I'm curious what kind of skills you brought with you from that world.
Yeah. It's funny because it doesn't seem like a lot of like the actual hunting skills transfer over too much. I mean, certainly just knowing how to operate in the mountains or, in the woods, wherever you're doing your big game hunting and then doing your hound hunting. I mean, that's certainly a skill that transfers over, and just being comfortable out there, knowing what to pack along so that you don't get up a creek with no paddle, so to speak. Right.
What about like woodsmanship skills? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, knowing where elk are, knowing where the food sources are.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, certainly applying, I guess, some of those tactics of like, okay, where do you find deer? Because obviously now when I'm looking for lion tracks, the lions are going to be where the deer are. So you have to figure out where the deer are, then you know where the lions are.
Yep. They're going to be one place in the spring, one place in the fall, someplace else in the dead of winter.
Yeah. And same thing with the bobcats, they tend to occupy a little different habitat than the lions. They're going to be where where you got a whole bunch of rabbits around here, or snowshoe hares, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you'll find them. But I gotta say, it's really probably been the opposite direction, I think, where I feel like I've been learning, or at least honing. I've said this a bunch, that prior to getting into hound hunting, always the best woodsmen I knew were either trappers or hound hunters. And I think a lot of it has to do with just that you're forced to pay so much closer attention to, tracks, habitat, etc., whatever it is, because, somehow it's just harder, the trapping and the hound hunting, I think. And so you're forced to look at stuff with just with a little more detail. And I'm hoping that then helps me in my big game hunting.
That's interesting that you bring that up. We've talked about that before, but I really, considering the fact that you have had a lot of experience hunting other big game species, to hear you say that kind of validates, it makes, that's a pretty good compliment for houndsmen, because I think there is a lot of stuff that goes into it. The first rule of thumb is, if you want to catch lions, you got to go where the lions are. And in order to go there, you got to know where they're at and where they're at different times of the year, what they're feeding on. And to do that, then you have to know where your prey species are. Same way with bobcats. So yeah, I'm glad you said that.
And for really, when you're looking for a lion, you're not looking for the lion, you're just looking for its track. And it's such a low density animal. There's not a lot of tracks left behind, where, you can be a lifelong deer hunter and really never pay. There's probably going to be people that aren't going to agree with me here, but I feel like you could be a lifelong deer hunter and never really pay that close attention to deer tracks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see them and you can go, oh yeah, look, here's a crossing on the road, or oh, here's a main trail. But that's, you know, I would call that a very casual observer of deer tracks, right? There's very few people, I think, that with deer hunters like really get in there and start to think about, okay, what else is this track telling me? You know, size of the animal.
Is it walking? Is it running?
Yeah, exactly. What was it doing here? And then trying to track it in any kind of conditions other than, you know, the perfect, you know, just slightly wet soil or you know, sandy soil that really shows a track well. I mean, how many people do you know that can track a deer through, you know, 3 inches of oak leaves? I know I can't.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I think it's definitely just a little more attention to detail that that those trappers and hound hunters have that, you know, helps them be good big game hunters.
One of the cool things too, I know you've seen this, especially working with Bart, the ability of the houndsman to be selective. It's totally unique to. I think it's more unique than any other type of hunting. Obviously, you know, a seasoned hunter can look through glass across a canyon and really tune in and know exactly what he's looking at when he's looking at a bear or a lion. But you definitely can't sex one at 1,000 yards. And have you noticed what's been your opinion about that part of? We call it the only form of catch and release hunting. We can walk in there, we can look at a lion, we can look at a bear, we interact with them up close and get to see that. Have you noticed that or enjoyed that part of it?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I'm certainly looking to eventually, hopefully one day, maybe it'll be this Wednesday when I go out, but you know, I'd like to harvest a lion. I'm being a little specific. I'd like, you know, but not too. I feel like my goal is not set too high. I'd like to harvest like a male that's like 120 pounds or more, right? Like which would I think by my calculations and experience that you're looking at like a mature male that's out on his own, right? And I've just, you know, up to this point, you know, everything's been 100 or less, or you catch the female, and then on the other side of the ridge, you catch the young male, and they're probably associated, you know, that male's probably still running with mom. And just haven't found the right one. And honestly, it's like, to me, the hunt's kind of over once the cat's in the tree and your dog's treeing it. You know, the harvesting or the killing of that animal at that point, it's definitely anticlimactic, right?
Amen. It really is.
I mean, and that's true. I mean, honestly, I don't feel much different when I, you know, kill a turkey or kill a bull elk, right? Like I live for the chase and for the pursuit. And, you know, once you kill those animals, it's like, okay, well, we're not chasing anymore. Now we're working because we're working. You know, pack this sucker out. At least a turkey is not too much work to pack out. And there's joy and there's you know, relief in finishing the hunt by killing an animal. And I'm not saying by any means I don't like doing that. I by all means do, but you know, poking a lion at 20 yards in a tree, you know, it doesn't take a lot of skill on my part. I think that the skill and the hunt was all in the years leading up to that moment when it finally happens.
All right. So
yeah, it's great. I love catch and release mountain lion hunting. It's a little, my wife looks at it a little bit like you know, Steve's used this term in the past, like worrying wildlife.
Yeah.
Like, so where you're like, just, you know, messing with them just a little bit. But again, the infrequency that Mingus and I actually get to worry a lion, I don't think that we're not sort of adding up to enough worrying of that animal that it's going to be detrimental to its its life here on Earth, right?
Right.
I mean, it probably gets run up into trees by more wolves around here than they do a hound.
There was, I'm not even gonna bring it. I'll talk to you about this off air, because I'll stick my foot in my mouth, and I can't back it up with I don't want somebody hearing me say it and then getting misinformation. So, but all right. So I can't believe I'm getting ready to call you a rookie hunter, Janis. But
I am. That's fine.
That's a joke. But okay. So do you think that your opinion would be different if you were not a houndsman now about the excitement of pulling the trigger? Do you find yourself looking at this hunting experience in a different way than now that you've got some skin in the game with Mingus? Do you look at it different now?
And you're speaking of precisely like the moment of truth, like when you're going to take the animal's life.
Yeah, I'm just all of it. I mean, let me try to rephrase it a little bit. Have you got a different impression of, have your feelings changed about hunting with hounds now that you have a hound? Your outlook on it, that you talked about. I guess my original question was, do you think it would have been different if you were a paid client coming out to hunt with somebody that had hounds? Mm-hmm. You're with an outfitter. Do you think the experience is different for them than what it would be for you now that you have your own hound?
Oh, 100%. I don't think you can't really compare the two. Mm-hmm. They just don't, like you said, they don't have that skin in the game. And again, my circumstances are so different from most people, because again, I just have such a deep Rolodex. If you're younger than 40, they don't even know what Rolodexes are anymore. But my phone is full of so many contacts where it's just been able to open up my mind without ever really having to, experience a lot of these things myself, just because I've met people that when I talk to them, I trust what they say, mm-hmm. and that has colored how I feel. So, even before Steve did that hunt, I had talked to enough houndsmen to know that the hunt is in that pursuit and in finding the tracks and training the dogs and all that. And I've heard plenty of stories. And again, if you like to shoot stuff with a bow, this is not against a knock against guys that shoot stuff with a bow. I like to shoot stuff with a bow a lot.
Right.
But to shoot a lion with a bow, to me, is kind of like, I don't really get it, because to me, I just don't see, the reason. And I've talked to enough outfitters that have had clients that had to shoot him with a pistol. Mm-hmm. Couldn't get it done with the pistol, so they shot him with a rifle, but then took the picture with the pistol, right? And people just have these, we make up these reasons, whether it's a collection because they got to shoot it all with a bow or all with a pistol, or who knows what it is. And again, I don't want to knock anybody. If that's your thing, go and do it. But to me, looking at it objectively, it's kind of like it's the animal's life is at that point is not, you're not making it really any harder, other than you have to draw the bow as opposed to just click the safety off.
Right.
Anyways.
Right. I asked that question to kind of lead into this. What do you think? Why do you think that houndsmen still struggle to get that message out? When you were getting ready to go on the hunt for MeatEater, you did research, you already had some idea of what was going to happen there. You talked to people, you trusted them, you believed what they told you. Why is this message so hard to get out to other ungulate hunters, hoof game hunters out there? Because you commonly see, somebody posts something on the social webs and boom, you've got so-and-so deer hunter guy that's saying, oh, that's not fair chase. That's too easy. That's not fair. Mm-hmm. Why has it been so hard to get that message out?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, because honestly, again, it's it's whatever the message that is prevalent. I think without us saying much, that's just always been out there. Because before I got interested in hound hunting and before I became a hound hunter, I certainly, just like I said earlier, I had a lot of the same misconceptions. You just all you see on the interweb is a cat in a tree with dogs barking underneath it, and whoever underneath it, and then a picture of them bear hugging a lion.
Right.
And maybe that's why, because maybe not enough people show what actually goes into it. And it's a lot of that stuff is just like it's boring to watch, right? I mean, it's no different than why hunting TV for so many years focused on the kill shot and just the grip and grin with those big antlers, right? Because that's in the end what people really want to see. And they don't want to see you planting food plots and the hours you spend with a saw doing timber stand improvement, et cetera, on your property, right? It's just kind of it gets to be boring. And since it is entertainment, and especially if we're talking about making hunting, whether it's TV or social media, right? If you want people to look at it and watch it, it's got to be somewhat entertaining. And I think so. It's sort of a it's a result of that we're showing stuff because we need the money or the clicks or the sponsorship or whatever that is. And so we just fail because we don't tell the whole story.
Yeah, that's it is tough and nobody knows it better than you, Janis, with producing the show and everything. Being able to, and MeatEater's done an outstanding job of telling the whole story of what hunting really is. And it's tough. I mean, we've had several shows pop up and drop off, everything from YouTube channels to, trying to do hunting shows on a regular basis about hunting with hounds. And, there's only so much of walking through crunchy leaves that you can put on a TV show before people are like, this is annoying. I'm not watching this, or falling down and sliding down a bank. And so the biggest part of the story, or the most entertaining part, a lot of times is at the tree for TV. But I think there's an opportunity there for houndsmen to rewrite the narrative. I see a lot more houndsmen doing stuff, taking pictures of their kids out alongside the road while they're waiting on a bear race, or they're listening to a bear race. And eat, just that kind of engagement, telling the whole story. I see a lot of improvements on that these days.
Yeah, that's good. Cause there's definitely there's so much more that goes on, than just that moment. Those moments are few and far between, honestly. I mean,
yeah,
I'll put in, I don't know how many days it's going to end up being, if I get in 50 mornings of checking and then end up catching 10 lions, that's 1 out of 5 days going out. It's probably pretty normal,
Yeah.
I'd like to say I don't even think it's that high of the ratio. I bet it's more like 1 out of 10 for me right now.
Yeah, you're doing good. I think you're doing great. So we'll wrap this up, but before we go, I want to get your opinion on a couple things. I want to give you an opportunity to talk to people out there that may be getting into hounds, or they're considering getting into hounds. Do you have any words of wisdom from Janis Putelis about, hey, you're thinking about getting a hound? This is what I would do.
I don't know if I'm in a position to be doling out any words of wisdom yet.
Well, sure you are. You're too. How many years you been hunting with Mingus now? Is this your 3rd season?
Yeah, we're in our 3rd season.
Yeah. So you've got some miles on the on the journey here. Yeah. So I feel like I'm hosting Heath Hyatt's podcast. I keep saying the journey, but go ahead.
I think that you need to be prepared. Persistence and time applied is going to equal success. And so again, I think you get to set your expectations, for someone that, again, can at least, check tracks once or twice a week, like me all winter, setting those expectations where you still might only catch, 2 or 3. I feel like I've gotten lucky this winter because one day a buddy of mine cut a track and that track turned into 2 lions, right? So that really padded my numbers. But
hey, you got to take them like
no,
they
exactly.
come. Yeah, you got to take them as you get them.
And that it's like a great way. I hate to even talk about it, but I know a lot of people that don't even hunt, but they spend a lot of time recreating around these parts on snowy trails early in the morning. And all those people, I'm like, look, here's a picture of a mountain lion track. Like, if you see this, call me.
Yeah.
You got to work all the angles, but yeah. So just, I think, setting expectations. Now we do have coons here, and I should probably just get a little bit more into it. And if I did and just kind of got some spots dialed, we would probably do it more often because I really enjoy it. And the hardest part about coons is that you're like going out when people are thinking about going to sleep, right? you got to be like, all right, kids, like, this is going to totally mess up your weekend because you're going to be awake until 2:00 in the morning. But what else? Yeah, I would say don't worry about, a lot of people will tell you that, some of these, and might not even be hounds, but any hunting dogs just can't be good family dogs. But
there you go.
Mingus has been great for us, and a well-hunted hound is you don't even know he lives in this house, honestly. If he's been being hunted, and as long as you took his dog bed and like put it next to a chair and out of sight, you wouldn't know we even have a dog because he's dead to the world. And when we go hunting, that that's when he wakes up,
right?
And so my kids are love all over him. They love hanging with him. He's a little bit indifferent. He doesn't show the same affection as, say, a lab does. So if you're looking for a dog that shows a bunch of affection, at least one of Mingus's offspring is not, it's just not going to be the dog you're looking for. I don't know how your hounds are, but yeah, this guy's kind of indifferent to.
Yeah, same way. It's like,
human affection.
I'm hungry right now, so you can feed me if you want. I'd like for you to feed me, and then the only time they get wound up is when they know, though. I mean, when the truck pulls up in front of the kennel, and I mean, it doesn't matter. It can be the 20th day in a row, and you get the same reactions. They're standing there at the gate and wanting to go, but the rest of the time, pretty chill. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. I think that would be about it. I think, but I think if you're interested in being serious and being successful, you're going to have to put in some time. Like, this is the first year in a long time where I didn't buy a season ski pass at our local ski resort. Really?
Because I knew that I wanted to put more time, in, and I wouldn't be skiing as many days as I have in the past because I was going to be out looking for tracks, and, just got to make some sacrifices. So I still go and ski, obviously, but I just didn't spend the money to buy the season pass and just.
No, now I saw your video the other day. You're skiing down like the slope behind your house or something.
Yeah, that's right. That's free skiing there.
It didn't look very well groomed either. There's some grass sticking up. There's some action skiing there. So you said something, about your network and people calling you, and I think that was a good point, having that network. But I think you're found something there, a gem there, and maybe you don't even realize it, Janis. But when you have a network like that, and you can go out and put Mingus on those tracks that are good tracks, at this stage of development, when hounds are learning what their job is, man, I found it so valuable when you can set them up for success, and you're not, you can't take a pup out there that's a year old and just free cast him out into the wilderness and expect to be successful. So you're finding ways to ensure that he has some success that day. And maybe he doesn't tree the lion. Maybe it's just a good solid tracking job that day. He put in a lot of effort. He got into the middle of an elk herd and lost the track, but he trailed it for, an hour and a half. I think you just have to be very conscious with those training those young dogs. The more we can set them up for success in the early stages, the better off they'll be. And it sounds like you figured that out.
Well, he was lucky that early on I tell his story a lot. The first time he followed a track to a tree. There was a pack of walkers there treeing a cat, but he didn't put two and two together that the cat was in the tree. And after an hour, we left, and Mingus never saw the cat. It wasn't until a week later that we were at another tree, and it's a literal replay of the week before. Mingus is running around getting bored because he can't see the cat in the tree. He's trying to take the same track that went to the tree. He's trying to run it back away, or he's playing grab ass with the other dogs there. And finally, I grabbed his head and just kind of pointed it up towards the tree. And, that's like the moment that it all clicked, because he was like, holy shit, look at that.
There he is. That's what we're doing.
In that tree.
Yeah.
So, I think connecting those dots. But now, and again, this comes right back to, my mentor, Jake, he's when I tell him, I said, we ran like a day old track, and Mingus ran it for, a couple hours, and I went in there, and where he lost it, I couldn't freshen it up. I couldn't figure out where it went either. And he's like, look, you didn't catch the lion, but Mingus worked, and he tried and he tried and he tried. And that's the one great thing that Mingus has is he might not be the fastest dog, but he literally doesn't give up. Like if you're just letting him free cast and letting him work, he sits there and works and works and works. And eventually you just go, all right, buddy, we got to go.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So I think the fact that he's, because I've been with enough other hounds now that there are those hounds that if it's not fresh enough, it's not hot enough, they're hanging out next to you. They're not trying to figure out the loss. Yeah. And, I'm sure there's a time and place for those dogs too, but I like it when mine is like, no, I can find it. Give me more time,
So many times we're our own worst enemies. We go out there and we've got this one hound, and we're wanting to be part of the hunt and show off our dog, and we let our egos get in the way, and instead of looking at the intrinsic values, the little things that went good that day, we dwell on the fact that we were running this great race, and then I caught him off a moose track. That's not what you want, but the first 3 hours of your day, your dog looked like an all-star, and at his developmental level for a year old or a year and a half old dog, they're going to do some of that stuff. So we just have to take it all in and look for those opportunities to celebrate the successes and not gloss over the failures. I mean, you don't want a dog that's 3 or 4 years old that's blowing up lion tracks for everybody. Nobody will let you hunt with them either. But at the same time, I think you've hit another key thing. You just stay humble and realize that, hey man, my dog did some good work today, and we'll get better tomorrow.
Yeah. And, at least he was sniffing a lion track and not a fox track.
Right. Yeah.
So,
well, hey, Janis, I one other question, and then I'll wrap it up. What do you like hunting better, bobcats or lions?
Ooh, we haven't caught a bobcat yet. In my experience, they're a lot harder. Mingus has definitely been on, I don't know, probably just this year, 3 or 4 different bobcat tracks. And one we caught, but again, he was running with an all-star team of other hounds. And he's actually been on 2 catches this year. But again,
nice.
With that same other group of hounds, he's not, whether he could have done it by himself, I don't know. From what I hear, it seems like bobcats are the next level. Like if your dog can catch a bobcat, they can catch about anything. That's what I hear.
Right.
So at this point, I like them both equally. Anything, if I get to the tree and look up and see a cat up there, it's a win, whether it's a 30-pound mountain lion, a 20-pound bobcat, or the 130-pound tom.
Right. All right, man. Well, hey, till next time, Janis, you follow your hounds and I'll follow mine.
Yeah, sounds good, Chris. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks very much.